can't believe I've run out of content ideas and have resolved to talk about the Gemiums instead of anything actually productive or interesting. This is the high quality and, most of all, timely content you're all looking for. Truly amazing. Gemium plants in PZ2 are plants you can buy with gems. They are typically much easier to get than Seediums or Premiums, and are powerful tools to add to your arsenal. But they aren't all created equally. And some options are just really bad. Especially considering the vanilla arsenal, some Gemiums are going to be better than others, and this shall be a video discussing that. With that said, the following should be kept in mind when talking about these plants, and what I'm going to be talking about. 1. I'm going to be considering the non-Seedium, non-premium loadout for plants. So, just because something like Humming Thistle is outclassed by Sling Pea, doesn't mean it's going to be rock bottom for it. 2. I'll be talking about the plants in reverse order, starting from the weakest to the strongest. If you just care about the rankings, chapters are cool, but that's lame, so don't do that. 3. I'm ignoring Arena and Penny's Pursuit. These modes do feature mechanics that can change the viability of plants. In addition, I'm ignoring leveling, because I don't play with leveling. Finally, not all Gemiums are available year-long round. Quite a few only appear during specific periods, so it's hard to know for certain which plants will be available for you. I won't be considering seasonals as a plight against plants in this list, but I'll mention when a plant is time limited. With that said, let's begin by scraping the absolute bottom of the barrel. The kinds of plants you should never, ever purchase for gems unless you have literally no other option. Of course, that means we start with the iconic and classic Peanut. Peanut is just bad. I made an entire video on this thing for a reason, after all. There's really just not a good reason to use it, due to it being both a worse Peashooter and a worse walnut. A Peashooter that wants to be in the front, and a walnut that wants to be in the back. If you are really getting technical, reinforcement strats do exist, but Blover is actually stronger in most cases, due to it being an instant kill in comparison, and not requiring you to use a really bad attacker when outside of the uptime. The only exception is in Arena, as Blover is often banned, and I suppose is one of the cheaper Arena strats to my knowledge? I don't really know. Arena's not my thing. There's really not much else to say here. Literally just use any other wall, it'll be cheaper, more cost effective, and you can use other plants to actually deal damage with the extra stun you'll have. Then on Peashooter, because Peashooter really sucks. Speaking of cheap wall plants, here's one it isn't, at all. Sweet Potato is a weird plant. It's a walnut that costs 3 times as much, in exchange for an in theory very powerful ability, but often proves to not be worth building around. Excluding Seediums, this is your premier and best redirection option in PZ2, with the only competitor being Garlic, who is far from being remotely viable in this game. That doesn't necessarily make Sweet Potato good, though. It's the best redirection you have, sure, but redirection as a tool just isn't that useful. There's so many things that can go wrong, to the point that you cannot make full value of the redirection without something going horribly wrong. And most plants really don't need redirection in PZ2. Most of them prefer something like Peapod to cover the lanes with high damage, or Watermelon to keep the zombies nearby for longer. So the redirection just isn't that useful of a tool. In addition, it's a time-based exclusive for Thanksgiving, typically, and this means it's also hard to get. If you want to play on redirection strats, then it is absolutely worth picking up if you can see it available, but otherwise, you can really just ignore it and be okay. Insert Hypnosis parallel here. One of the general trends you'll see in this list is that typically instant plants will be ranked higher. This is mostly because the Gemium minces are insane, but also because you really don't get a lot for adventure. Potato Mine, Chili Beam, Cherry Bomb, Stunya, Stolier, and Pearl Potato Mine are all you really get. And while they are all certainly good, you really want as many instances as possible in PZ2. Hypno-Shroom as a result isn't rock bottom, but it really isn't all that good in this game, at all. Hypno-Shroom costs 125 sun to remove a single zombie, and then make that zombie attack others. It's not impossible to get good value from it, but the 125 sun cost tag really hurts, considering Chili Bean costs only 50 with your powerful stun effects. Really, there's not a massive amount Hypno can do for you, at least without a lot of support from the likes of Stunyan. However, an empty slot being filled with Hypno is still much better than it being filled by the vast majority of plants. So it can be worthwhile to grab, though should probably be one of the last. Unless you're struggling with our future, Hypno can actually kill things Chili cannot in that world, so it can prove useful. Now let's go to the other world where if you are struggling, there is an easy solution. That world is Frostbite Caves, and the plant, Fire Peashooter. When it comes to plants that are good in exactly one situation in one world and is still far from required in that world, Fire Peashooter fits the bill perfectly. Its only unique traits come into play when you either use Torchwood, or when you're in a world that freezes plants. It's a repeater, but slightly cheaper otherwise. A repeater that cannot synergize with Torchwood, but costs slightly less. However, it can be used to deal Frost Winds. It can do so much better than Purple can, and that does give it some merit, though a limited one. The thing is, in Modern PvZ 2, Snapdragon is also a heater, so I don't see why you don't just spam that if you really need a second one. Still, if you want the most conventional, easy to use heater that is slightly better than Pepper, Fire Peashooter is a plant. Also, minor notes, Fire Peashooter's leveling is apparently pretty good. If you are doing leveling and have a lot of packets in Fire Peashooter, it may be worth purchasing just for that. Also, I've heard. Again, I don't use leveling myself. With that, let's overcharge our systems and head right onto the knockoff Electric Blueberry, Electric Currant. Electric Currant is a plant that really does just exist. It's cool, I like it a lot to be honest, but it's really not a priority pick under any circumstances. Electric Currant does a weak melee attack alone, but if two are in the same row or column, they can both connect and start dealing damage in an area between them. This deals pretty good damage, and is actually generally solid. Just don't rely on it to deal with chickens and such, and it can do alright. The main issue is that this leaves a few lanes very vulnerable. Currant needs either redirection, or heavy damage output, to protect the currents in question, and while this damage is good, it's not that good, and very situational, as it can easily be bypassed, avoided, or otherwise out-tanked. It's a very fun plant to use, but is far from optimal in most cases. It's not a priority, but it does offer something unique, so I find it hard to really complain about it. Pick it up at your own pace when you feel like something new. Now, let us home on to Homing Thistle, because apparently we are not done talking about attackers yet. Homing Thistle is kinda meh, to be honest. It's extremely usable, mind you, but it's not the single best answer to, really, anything. It costs 250 sun to do approximately 1.5 times Peashooter damage, and has a pretty long recharge. All that really matters, however, is that it targets a closest zombie. This can be a very useful trait early game, allowing all Homing Thistles to rush down individual targets. As a first purchase, I can see the value behind Homing Thistle. With that being said, it's also not that good. It's not the worst plant in the game or anything, but it's kinda middling on most actually hard stages. Zombies usually spawn in each lane, and in high enough numbers that all hands do need to be on deck. However, this is only super relevant for a few specific worlds later on. Most worlds do not have this, and homing can be a good solution for them. Especially due to its ability to focus down ambush zombies fast, you can find good uses for it. It's just not as permanently useful as the following plants, which are basically all instas. So, let's set them all ablaze, shall we? Jalapeno is the worst of a really good set of plants. This isn't even really its own fault. Its only actual flaw is not being Cherry Bomb. Jalapeno's range is just nowhere near as strong as the other bigger hitters, and it doesn't really do anything to make itself better. It's technically slightly cheaper, but that's it, for a plant which can often be only slightly better than Squash. Still, it does have a lot of good reasons to use it. Most notably, it's another insta that can deal a lot of damage across a still very reasonable amount of range. Jalapeno does also have some unique use cases. It can instantly melt the zombie and their ice block in one go, something no other plant can actually do. It can also instantly destroy a barrel's contents without releasing imps, which can prove useful if you are in certain situations. In some more niche scenarios, I guess a Gargantua is one of the few instances that can kill both an imp and the Gargantua itself, which is indeed a theoretical niche. But in practice, it's kinda just a worse Cherry Bomb. And Cherry Bomb isn't exactly hard to get. Truthfully, you can skip this one more easily than most, but as a second heavy insta, it's far from a terrible pick. Though I'm gonna be real. Between this and the next plant, there's a world of difference. And it seems to be stuck to the ground. Yeah, that was the best I got to transition here. Sapfling is a Christmas exclusive plant, and it is quite unique. It deals no damage whatsoever, but it is an amazing staller, and is extremely cheap at 75 sun. Especially as in vanilla, you really don't get a lot of options. While it doesn't stack with Watermelon Nostalgia, it doesn't really need to. It's the only free non-Watermelon plant that can apply constant stall, which is very useful. With that being said, it does have some flaws. Being usable in Big Wave Beach is pretty bad, and it having limited effect on flying zombies isn't ideal. Combine that with taking up a tile of space, and it's not the end-all of supporting options. However, simply stalling zombies heavily can often prove to be more than enough to be worth looking out for. It is severely strange this is like the only conventional staller in PZ2 Vanilla that's not a premium, but meh. If it's Christmas and you happen to want a staller, this is your best option without a doubt. I would pick it up if that's the kind of thing you're interested in. Now, let's head on to the plant which I was certain was going to be far higher up in this list, but for one reason or another, ended up being surprisingly low. That, of course, being squash. Yes, I am serious. Squash should not be this low. Like, this thing is insanely good. There is no scenario where squash is, at all, a bad pick in a deck. It's one of the most consistent plants in the entire game, with both a fast recharge and a really cost-effective attack. There is no point in any level where you would regret having squash. Really, as a Gemium, you cannot go wrong with buying it, which is increasingly why I'm so shocked it's this low. Squash doesn't really have a problem you can point at and go, yeah, this thing is alright, but it can't do X and really holds it back. No, Squash lacks weakness. Squash lacks any significant problems. Don't take it only being 6th as me downplaying Squash. This is the perfect benchmark to show just how insane our upcoming plants really are. Squash is one of the most generally useful options in the entire game, being useful against any target in any situation. It has a fast recharge, can instantly kill entire groups of zombies, and can chuck down Gargantuas at a very fast rate. It's a legitimately great plant, but isn't really outclassed by what's upcoming. But they more so work well together. Point in question? Well, what if you could push all zombies to the first tile in the lane? How strong would that be? Hurrikale can reset an entire lane of zombies for 100 sun with a 15 seconds recharge. Hurrikale is insane, and the single best stall you can get as a free-to-play player, dealing the elusive knockback effect that makes plants like Charge so viable. And of course, the ability to clump up zombies for instant plants to get massive value is exactly as strong as you'd expect. Having Hurrikale on the level, assuming you have the sun to spend, makes it significantly easier. I'm going to be honest though, this and the next 5 plants are all very interchangeable as the absolute bests. These plants are all game-changingly powerful options that can completely shift the game on its head. Hurrikale out of the 5 is the best staller in the entire game, but that's also why I put it as the last. The free stallers do include Shard Guard, Stunion, and Stallia after all. You don't really need more than that if you are playing well. In addition, Hurrikale is pretty expensive for a stalling insta, which is a lot of sun to spend on something that doesn't actually win you the level by itself. Still, Hurrikale can provide insane value if you play around it. Its consistent effect on the field means that it can provide more than enough support for most goofy strats that come to mind. You can go the FSHML of Hurrikale and shut down several lanes at once. Hurrikale is still an exceptionally strong plant, at the end of the day. Now, speaking of exceptionally strong, let's talk about a more recent addition to the Gemium roster. Something a bit more permanent. Kiwibeast is a Gemium plant now. To some of you this will be a surprise, though it's been a thing for about a year now, so neat, I guess. Regardless, Kiwibeast is a decently complex plant. It starts off tiny and terrible, but as it gets eaten, it starts to grow in size. As it grows in size, it gains both damage and range. At full transformation, you'll have 1000 HP to work with still, which is extremely playable around. At this size, you gain an insane 5x5 range on the entire field, and the ability to free-shot basic zombies. It gets to a point that with dedicated Kiwi strats, it becomes impossible to grow extras, as the Kiwis do an insane amount of damage to protect each other. Kiwibeast is among the best attackers in the entire game, without question. Its commonly AoE that make it able to keep itself in check, and frankly, deals so much goddamn damage at once you get a few up, you're set for life. And if something does break through, simply place another Kiwi. They are walls, after all, and extremely cheap. Due to the limited range, you can even stall out waves naturally too, with careful play. Now, they are not infallible. A lot of zombies have means to completely shut them down. It's always like Gargs are in fact horrifying. But with good insta usage, you can still shut down most threats pretty easily. Still, this extra step is why it's so low. Other plants going ahead are so powerful, but you can just slap them onto a deck and be done with it. Kiwibeast requires a lot of thought and planning in comparison to what's upcoming. Meanwhile, Lava Guava certainly does not. All it needs is a little bit of good placement, and it'll do its job just fine. Lava Guava has exactly 15 seconds of recharge. It can also kill basic zombies across 3 lanes, focus on a single heavy target with damage higher than a squash, cherry bomb, or anything of the sort. Lava Guava is John Insta, and deals an absolutely insane amount of damage, with an insane amount of utility, all in a single 75 stun cost package. And unlike most plants, it can probably do all 3 at the same time, because 15 seconds of recharge. I cannot stress this enough. Lava Guava is the most band-aid solution to any problem in the entire game. If something is a threat, simply Guava it. Even in the early game, where threats are spread across multiple lanes, Guava deals damage in a 3x3 area, and most zombies do not like taking 200 damage at once, especially early game, where that's often enough to simply kill outright. Guava has absolutely no weakness, can be slapped onto literally any deck in the game without flaw. There is no situation where Guava is a bad pick. Well, unless you're exceptionally good at doing a little timing trickery. Ghost Pepper is basically identical to Lava Guava in most places. The main difference is twofold. Firstly, Guava can't be used in Big Wave Beach. Ghost Pepper can. This may seem minor, but the hardest levels in the game are all in Big Wave Beach, and having an insta capable of acting at full strength in that world is no laughing matter. And secondly, once you get good at timing it, Ghost's final 3x3 explosion is significantly stronger than Guava's, and requires less support to get max damage out of when compared to Guava's damage pools. And what's another final thing to top it all off? Sun Shovel is an upgrade! Ghost Pepper becomes practically free early game if you're willing to micro a bit of Sun Shovel, rendering its already low price to basically zero. Still, this is indeed more an equal trade than anything. Firstly, Ghost Pepper is a limited time plant exclusive to Halloween, already quite a hit, but its early game is also slightly worse and requires more skill to use. I think it's worth a spot at the top. I don't see these weaknesses as significant enough to drag it down, though these two are very interchangeable. This, of course, leaves one, and only one. Let's not let it leave you with a shrinking feeling, shall we? Shrinking Violet is really unique among PvZ2 plants, in that it has a fully unique ability to support other plants that hasn't actually been seen since, multiplying damage dealt to zombies. This is no small matter, as doubling damage to all zombies is pretty much the single, most universally useful ability you can possibly have in PvZ2. I feel the need to mention that Torchwood is still used, a plant which does not boost many strong plants, takes up space, and doesn't have any of the many benefits that Shrinking Violet provides. Mostly, the 15 seconds recharge, 3x3 range, for only 50 stun. That is insane. The thing with damage multiplication is that, in PZ2, they can often be as effective as a single cherry bomb. Because you are always dealing damage, and 2 times damage is so significant a boost, by the mid-game this is as good as simple complete destruction. And at the price, the differences are so minor they don't matter. This even results in other instances being much more effective. Nothing survives a squash when they are shrunk, not even Gargantuas. And it's a 3x3 insta, it's going to hit more than just a single Gargantua. This is what makes Shrinking Violet so strong. Other strong Gemiums can stall zombies back, but lack permanent usage. Many instances can kill zombies rapidly across the field, but all of these can't do everything. Hurrikale does not permanently make progress against zombies. Kiwibeast requires everything to be built around it. Lava Guava and Ghost Pepper struggle to deal with heavy threats. Shrinking Violet doesn't have any of these problems. Any deck, against any zombie, in any scenario, you can find some use for Shrinking Violet. It will always actively contribute to victory in a way only it can. That's not to say it's always the best tool for every scenario, nor is necessarily the best first pick for a Gemium plant. That's the thing, the best plant for you to get will always be based on what you need at the time. Need some extra damage? Lava Guava. Struggling with Frostbite Caves? Fire Peashooter. Want some better stalling? Hurrikale. Want to die? Peanuts. All plants have a time and a place. In the end, a list like this can only list them in terms of power. It can't list them in terms of what's actually best for you. Regardless, hopefully this has proven to be useful to all 2 of you who will actually use this video for something, and entertaining for the 99.9% of the audience who's already bought all the plants, don't play PZ2, or just let autoplay start playing PZ2 videos for some unholy reason. Whatever the case, this has been Creeps, and have a good one.